Welcome all my fellow Disney fervents to my very first video. Today I'm going to tell you people about the history of Indiana Jones' Adventure, Temple of the Forbidden Eye. This is my favorite attraction in the Disneyland park and probably the most immersive. For those of you familiar with the ride, you can skip somewhere on the screen. There'll be somewhere where you can skip. And if you're not familiar with the ride, then you can just continue watching, and I'm going to show a clip and kind of narrate what's going on as everything's happening. So if you're unfamiliar, do that.
The French may be needing a little adjustment from
You seek the treasure of Mara, glittering gold.
Before we get to the actual attraction history now, be sure to hit that like button and the subscribe button. And also, turn on post notifications by clicking the bell icon. That way, you get notified every new upload. After the big success of Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular in Walt Disney World in Florida, Walt Disney Imagineering, or WDI, wanted to collab with George Lucas once again for another Indiana Jones attraction, this time in Disneyland Park, Anaheim. This collab is actually the fourth with George Lucas, following after Captain EO, Space Tours, and Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular. There were several concepts for what this attraction was going to be like, and there was even two rides at one point. The first was going to be the same adventure type ride we have today. There was also going to be a minecart roller coaster type thing inspired from the event in Temple of Doom and going to be similar to the ride that they have in Paris Disneyland. There is even an idea for the Disneyland Railroad and the Jungle Cruise to pass through this attraction. My guess is that they would pass through the attraction similar to how the Disneyland Railroad passes through Splash Mountain today. Also, the Jungle Cruise boats would even stop and let guests off in the side of the temple so they could walk around and explore. The Imagineering team tested key show elements in a studio in Burbank, California, where they had a track raised up that was very similar to a freeway so they could kind of have better access to the mechanics underneath as the transports were passing overhead. Finally broke ground in August of 1993. There were more than 400 Imagineers working on the attraction's construction and design, and legendary Imagineer Tony Baxter led a core project team of nearly 100 Imagineers. And because of the lack of room in the park at this time, they built the main show building where the Eeyore parking lot used to be. You can actually see one of the old signs from the Eeyore parking lot in the projection room today. But because of this show building being in a parking lot outside the park, guests have to walk half a mile to get to where the actual ride is today. But this gave a really good opportunity for the Imagineers to give guests the best immersiveness in any Disney attraction. But we'll get back to all that stuff later. But for now, let's go back to 1988 when Disney was basking in the success of Star Tours, when Tony Baxter asked the question, how can we take this technology and mobilize it? And for those of you not familiar with Star Tours, where have you been all your life? And for two, this is what it was like. It was this vehicle that sat on this big gimbal that could move it kind of up, down, side to side. And it was basically a fully immersive simulator. So the Indiana Jones Enhanced Motion Vehicle was born, or the EMV. How the EMV works is very similar to what the Star Tours gimbal was like. It was a gimbal on wheels that could move through the attraction, and it had like a Jeep covering over top of it. Did you know though that the wheels on the Jeep actually don't do anything at all? They're just there for aesthetics. Only one problem, because of how advanced this technology was with all the different things like the accelerating and the stopping constantly, and the hydraulic rams, which are kind of like the things that move up and down, everything going at once, it would constantly break down. So much so that ride operators usually leave offerings at this little Buddha with a little bull that they've nicknamed Breakdown Buddha. Now, remember how I said earlier that the Jungle Cruise boats would sometimes pass through and drop passengers off? Because of this, the Imagineers needed to rewrite all the jokes, well, most of the jokes, and kind of change some of the theming of the Jungle Cruise to kind of fit with the Indiana Jones timeline. Now for some of the best Disney theming, we're going to talk about this. Now, in the front of the attraction, you could probably remember seeing a big Mercedes truck. Did you know that this truck was used for filming an actual Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark? They used this truck for the chase scene where the Ark of the Covenant was in the back and Indiana Jones was going through it, like under it, and like, you know, doing all that crazy Indiana Jones stuff that he does. Also, when the attraction first opened, AT&T, the sponsor of the attraction, had these little cards that would have the glyphs that you could find in Mara's temple, and there would be like the glyphs on it, and then underneath the letters, so you can kind of decrypt what the glyphs were saying. It's fairly easy to decipher because lots of the glyphs represented their real alphabet counter. There are so many different little Easter eggs and different little fun things to find that I could be here a while talking about them, so I'm just gonna kind of skip over them, and maybe that would be in another video. Now, you're probably wondering, in first chamber where you go in when Mara presents your gifts, you're probably wondering, well, how does it make it look like you're going through a different door each time? Well, today, it's just a boring projection. But back when the attraction first opened, it was the walls that moved, and there was 2 fake tracks underneath it that kind of made the illusion that you're going through. And in 2013, Mara got a refurb. You see, the original booming voice of James Earl Jones was replaced by a younger, calmer, less ominous voice. Mara also got some nice new face projections, which makes him look a little scary. But Mara's new voice was short-lived. James Earl Jones' voice is now back. One last little bit of history/facts is this. You know the boulder scene when it looks like the boulder's rolling at you? What if I told you that it's the walls that are moving? That's right. Nothing's moving except the walls and the Indiana Jones animatronic. You see, the boulder is actually rolling, but it's attached to a pole, so it's always going to be rolling forward. And it's the walls that are kind of moving forward and backwards to create the illusion that it's moving towards you. Imagine your Tony Baxter got the idea when he was sitting in a self-drive car wash. The car parks, and all the cleaning apparatuses move around you and kind of forward and back. So, what is your favorite Disneyland attraction? Be sure to let me know down in the comment section down below. That's a lot of downs. Also, you can follow me on Instagram at @the_Disney_fervent. Thanks for watching. Peace.